Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight for our live telephone town hall. My name is Kelsey, and I'm here tonight with Senator Rand Paul. We're looking forward to taking your live calls and discussing a whole range of issues that are important to Kentucky and the nation. We're excited to be live streaming this teletown hall event tonight on both our website and our Facebook page. You can go to paul.senate.gov/live or facebook.com/Senator Rand Paul to watch right now. And if your friends or family couldn't join us tonight, they'll be able to access that video anytime on our page. Before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone that our office can assist you in a variety of ways. Navigating the massive federal bureaucracy doesn't rank high on many people's lists of fun activities. It can be confusing, frustrating, and downright overwhelming, but you don't have to face this challenge alone. Our office has a proven track record of helping Kentuckians untangle red tape, get results, and resolve long-standing concerns. We are always ready to help with matters involving federal government agencies and programs, including veterans benefits, Social Security and Medicare benefits, federal tax matters and the IRS, immigration matters, passports, military academy nominations, federal student loans, and replacing lost or damaged documents such as VA records and military medals and records. So if you live in Kentucky and need help with these and other issues with federal agencies and programs, please don't hesitate to contact us by visiting our website at www.paul.senate.gov or by calling our Bowling Green office at 270-782-8303. If you have a question for Senator Paul, please press *3 on your telephone keypad now or at any time. Again, that is *3 to ask a question. Additionally, you can press the number 1 on your telephone keypad at any time during this event to sign up for Senator Paul's weekly e-newsletter. For those tuning in online, you can also sign up for that e-newsletter by visiting our website. I'll now turn it over to Senator Paul for his opening remarks, and then he'll take some questions.
Thanks, Kelsey. It's nothing short of a miracle that we have the ability to communicate with so many people in Kentucky all at once. I remember when I was a kid, congressmen and senators would communicate with their constituents through these mailers that they would send, but they would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now with technology, we're able to communicate by email. Kelsey mentioned our newsletter. It goes out every week, and it talks about the different stops that I make around Kentucky, sometimes different problems we're trying to tackle in Kentucky, sometimes national problems. But it's a pretty good quick read if you want to keep up with kind of what's going on in Washington and the problems we face and the things we're trying to do to fix them. Kelsey mentioned that our office does what we call constituent work. Some people think that their senator, their congressman is only talking about the budget or military action or foreign policy. We do all of that, but we also help people who are having trouble getting in touch with their government or get through the red tape. So one of the most common things we do, and probably half of the requests that we get in our office, are Veterans Affairs. People having trouble with the VA, with the hospital, or getting through to the right person, they've denied this or that. We have the ability to cut through the red tape and call the people in charge and usually get a response. So if you're somebody who's a veteran, has trouble, and you want help, our office can help you. If it's a Social Security problem or some kind of problem that you're dealing with the government that sends something to you that you're not receiving, that's something we can get involved with as well. Sometimes we get involved with issues like the Corps, whether the Corps is made a mistake and are telling people to do things around a lake or to add these expenses that isn't appropriate. We'll advocate for the citizen to try to communicate better with the government. When I go around Kentucky, and I've been traveling a lot around Kentucky, I meet with Kentucky businesses. And one of the interesting things is the number one thing I hear from Kentucky businesses across the state is that there's a shortage of workers. And my first response is usually that's a pretty good thing to have. The economy is doing so well, unemployment is so well, that most of the manufacturers and most of the businesses are actually looking for workers. And what that means is that wages are going up. I met with a company out of Northern Kentucky a few months ago, and they told me they were actually paying $22 an hour to work on the night shift. And so there are a lot of opportunities. In fact, I really think there's never, ever been a better time to be alive. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, no matter who you are, The unemployment's the lowest it's been really easily in my lifetime. The economy's growing, and really the businesses that seem to be hiring more people. Corvette plant in Bowling Green has 400 new jobs. I was at Bendix, a brake manufacturer that makes brakes for the semi-trucks. They're employing new people and doing another investment in Bowling Green. I've been around the state and I see this. But the key component is we have to understand why the economy is doing well and why these businesses are doing well. For decade upon decade, we taxed our businesses higher than the rest of the world. We had a corporate income tax of 35%, higher than anybody in the world. Most of Europe was in the 20s, low 20s. In fact, Bernie Sanders talks about socialism in Sweden and talks about how Scandinavia is so great. Interestingly, they had lower corporate income taxes than we did, and their business was thriving because of these low taxes. Now we've brought ours down. So many of the big corporations, actually, in a few Kentucky corporations, I can tell you, actually were able to keep more than $100 million of their money that they earned, and a lot of that gets plowed into new jobs. So when I'm at the Corvette factory or Bendix or any of these companies that are doing pretty well, I like to remind people this isn't an accident. It just doesn't just sort of happen out of the blue. It happens because the government is returning money to its rightful owners, the people who earn it, and when the companies get to keep it, the employees and the workers thrive. So there's a lot of good things going on, but I think it's important that we not forget or that we somehow think, oh yeah, prosperity is just accidental and it doesn't matter what kind of government you have. I think if your government has taxes too high or regulatory burden too high or a court system that is too intrusive into business, you can wind up squelching an economy. In fact, the bigger your government gets, if you get to be like Venezuela, you can completely destroy an economy. In Venezuela, you have a country that actually has greater oil reserves than Saudi Arabia, and yet the average person in Venezuela last year lost nearly 20 pounds without trying. That's not a good way to lose weight. It's an absence of food. People are fighting over scraps of food and scrounging through garbage containers. It's really, really sad that this once great, rich country is succumbing to this, but it's a result of socialism. It's a result of price controls. It's a result of saying government can be everything to everyone. But one of the interesting things about ownership is when everybody owns something, they tend not to care about it. There's a saying that Milton Friedman had, and he put it this way. He said, nobody spends somebody else's money as wisely as their own. And there's something to be said for that. If I ask each of the people listening for $1,000 to invest in some project, you'd think long and hard about how many hours it took you to earn that $1,000. And you'd be very conscious of giving it to an investment that you didn't lose the $1,000 because you would have lost all those hours of work. But if you ask a politician for $1,000 or $1 million or $1 billion, they just say, well, it's not their money, and they hand it over. And this is a real problem and the real danger of the government we have now. We're spending about $1 trillion more than what comes in. And people say, oh, well, that was just the tax cut. You cut the taxes. Interestingly, we're getting more in taxes this year than we got last year. By reducing the tax rates, the economy is growing so much, we're getting more revenue. The reason the deficit's going up is we're still spending too much. And I kind of laughingly say, people say, whose fault is it? Republicans or Democrats? And I just say, yes. It's really both parties' fault. Both parties really want some kind of spending, and the way they get it is they compromise with the other side to give them their spending. And so I think we really do have to be conscious of this because I think our nation could be eroded. We could actually have a day of reckoning that comes from accumulating so much debt. Now, despite a great economy, there are some complaints we hear. Two prominent complaints that we hear from people calling into our office or writing to us are high cost of drugs, and the other one is student loans. Both of these are problems that I think we need to do something about. I think that there have been examples of the drug companies abusing the patent system to prolong their patents basically forever. They call it evergreening of patents. So yes, I think we do need to do something to make sure that when the patent is over, it's over, and that we allow generics. There also have been examples of Big Pharma also not sharing samples that are necessary for people to develop generics. So when the generic company wants to produce an off-label or a non-labeled generic, they have to prove that it works as well as the other one. But in order to do that, they have to do studies, and they need samples of the named drug. And so there has to be some rules on this because the patented drug has had a long time to have a monopoly that the government grants, which is a patent. And so as that monopoly ends, I think they need to be told they have to share with the generics, and if they don't, there has to be a penalty. I also think we could bring drug prices down by having some reciprocal approval in other countries. Europe has sophisticated testing and safety on their drugs, and if there's a drug over there that's being used widely for a long period of time without any safety concerns, and we have someone over here who has a monopoly, why wouldn't we let the company in Europe sell here too, so we could bring down the monopoly? I've also supported reimportation, which means could you buy your drugs in Canada or Mexico or Europe or Japan or China? Yes, I think we need a more open worldwide market and more worldwide competition. We've also advocated for the complicated rebate system where they have these corporate entities that get the rebates. We've advocated that the consumer should be allowed to get a rebate. Currently, believe it or not, if you're on Medicare, the rules don't let you get a direct rebate. You can't get a discount coupon sent to you. If you're on private insurance, you can get a discount coupon from the drug company. But if you're in Medicare, you can't, and then the rebate is somehow soaked up by these entities called pharmacy benefit managers or the insurance plans, or really it's a black box. Who knows where this stuff goes, but the discounts are going, but it doesn't seem to be going to the consumer. With the student loans, this is a long-term problem where government subsidizes going to college. So we give people grants and we give people loans. And we've sort of pushed up the college entry level to where almost everybody's going to college now, but that increase of the demand that's subsidized by the taxpayer has also jacked up the price of college. So the price of college has gone through the roof. Sometimes you look at these colleges and you'll find 20 administrators or bureaucrats that are in between the student and the dean, and they're not even teaching. They're just, the universities have become bloated with these bureaucracies, but the price has gone through the roof. One of the answers we're introducing, and this is a bill we've put together and been working on for some time, is the ability to let students take some of their retirement savings. Some of the students, after they finish, are developing retirement savings and their employers are even matching it. We want to let the students actually use some of that, or the new young employees use some of that without penalty. Currently, the tax penalties are such that if you say, well, gosh, I have $10,000 in loans, but I have $10,000 in my retirement fund, and I'd rather just pay off the loans so I can get rid of this 5% interest I've got, you have to pay such a horrible tax penalty that it's not worth your while. We think people that are, behind the eight ball and having trouble with their student loans ought to not have to pay a special tax penalty. So we're going to do this for up to $5,000 per year, and also make it easier for employers to match that. Because employers are hungry for workers right now, some employers are actually willing to help people pay off their student loans, but the way the taxes are on it, they're not getting the full benefit. So we're going to make it such that the employer can actually get the full tax benefit by giving their employees money to help pay off their student loans. We think these things can help quite a bit. One other item, and then we'll open up to questions. There's talk this evening, and Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, is talking about going forward with an impeachment inquiry. I don't think that means impeachment. I think they're going to study impeachment, but it, I think, is a bad sign that we may well be headed towards the Democrats impeaching a Republican president. I guess to my mind is I think that we've become so partisan that people are now using this impeachment idea or concept as a partisan tool because they don't like the other side. There's so much anger of people because the election was so close that everybody's so angry they just want to put everybody in jail. And that happens in a lot of third world countries. The presidents will be indicted and you go from office to jail to office to jail. And I think it's a terrible system if we criminalize running for politics. We can disagree, with somebody from the other party, but to think that we always have to feel like everything's going to be criminal and we're going to put people in jail, I think is a mistake. I'm hoping that this won't go forward because I think that really when you look at the specifics of this, it seems like everybody's been threatening the aid to Ukraine and saying, oh, well, if you don't do X, you may not get your aid. In fact, the whole thing with the Bidens is somewhat unseemly. The idea that Hunter Biden, a guy that had been discharged from the military for misbehavior, was getting $50,000 a month. Here's a young man with no experience is all of a sudden appointed to an international corporation. He's getting $50,000 a month. Something doesn't seem right about that. About the same time, his father was over there lobbying to have some prosecutors fired that were actually looking into affairs in the company that hired Hunter Biden. So something doesn't pass a smell test on that. I think the president wanted them to investigate it. I don't know whether that's, what the actual ruling will come down on, whether he can do that or not. But I do think that we need to be very careful about politicizing this whole thing and thinking, oh, we're just going to impeach people we don't like. There's such hatred across the media and across academia towards the president that I don't think he's getting a fair shot. And I think the president has been trying to help the country and has done a lot of good things for us. The tax cuts have been great for our country and our economy. The appointment of conservative judges to the both Supreme Court and the appellate court and the district courts has been good for our country. And I also think removing some of the onerous regulations is helping us, and we're thriving for a lot of reasons. I think we need to figure out how to get beyond some of our differences, agree to disagree on some things, and really try to move forward to make and continue to make America great. And so I hope that this will be something that saner minds will prevail and will get passed. But with that, Kelsey, I think we're ready to go and take some questions.
All right, and we have a lot coming in.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Senator. Again, you can ask a question by pressing *3 on your telephone keypad at any time. I'll also be keeping an eye on our online submissions on our website and on our Facebook page. We will now go to our first question from Cody here. Go ahead, Cody. You are live with the Senator.
Well, thank you, Kelsey. Good evening, Mr. Rand Paul. I really appreciate the hard work you do, and I love listening to your father's podcast, by the way, and End the Fed.
Thanks.
But I wanted to see if you'd heard about the issues with the Border Patrol, not on immigration, but I had an issue on August 1st being stopped at the Detroit Ambassador's Bridge. Wasn't doing anything illegal, wasn't carrying anything illegal, but they weighed me into secondary checkpoint and proceeded to demand my computer and phone passwords. I don't have a history of being a delinquent or anything like that to justify that. And I'm just really put off by that Fourth Amendment violation. I didn't know if you were aware that they're doing that. And then they took my phones because I refused to give them the password. I just don't think that's right in the United States of America.
Yeah, I'm very much aware of this problem, and if the producers can give me a little bit more volume for the calls, that'll help. What I would say is that I've been looking at this for nearly a year now, and in fact, we brought forward some of the people in Homeland Security and the people on the Border Patrol to ask them what was going on with this, because we had American citizens coming across the border who then, for one reason or another, which really wasn't clear to them, they were being stopped and saying, you can't come back in your own country, unless you give us the password to your cell phone. This, to me, is an incredible violation of your privacy. And so we actually blocked one of the heads that was nominated to be head of the Border Patrol because he said, oh, your cell phone is the same as a shipping container. And look, I think we can acknowledge that we're going to have suitcases and things like that, examined for bombs. But your cell phone is not a suitcase, it's not a shipping container, and you have a lot of very private information on there. And when they take the phone with the password, you have no idea whether they're downloading all the contents of your phone, whether they're looking through a lot of private things on your phone, or where that information goes. We also don't know exactly how they're making this decision. They say it's based on suspicion, but our worry is that if you have a name that doesn't sound, I don't know how to describe this, isn't an Anglo-Saxon name, or your skin isn't white, or this or that, or you could be targeted. I'm very worried about these targeted things coming across the border. There's a bipartisan movement that I'm a part of to try to fix it. Ron Wyden is a Democrat from Oregon, but he and I work together on Fourth Amendment issues and privacy, and we have a bill that says if they want to look at your cell phone, they have to call a judge, and they have to get a warrant to do it, because your cell phone is not a suitcase, is not a shipping container. And so we have a bill to do this. We haven't gotten very far with it yet, but the more people like you that will call their congressman and complain and say, look, just because I go across the border doesn't give the government the right to look at my cell phone, I think it's very important that you call your congressman, you write letters to them, email, etc. If we get enough people complaining, maybe we can get the law changed.
All right, we'll go ahead and go to our next question. Mr. Garrett, Mr. David Garrett, go ahead. You are live with the Senator.
Yeah, Senator Paul, nice to talk with you. I appreciate your service to our state and our nation. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. What I wanted to ask you about, was there any chance that we could get term limits? Or, I appreciate what you've done for us, but I think when, the Constitution was written, that serving in the House of Representatives and the Senate was a point of service, not a lifetime career.
Yeah, one of the first bills, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. One of the first bills that I co-sponsored when I came up here was term limits, and I'm still a co-sponsor of that. And I think if we could get term limits, it'd be a good thing. I still continue to think turnover is good. I spent my first 20 years of my working career as a physician. I think it's good to have people who have other careers and don't come up here at age 26 and that's all they ever do. And I think it's good for rotation in office. The only caveat to that is I think that term limits only work if they're for everyone. So there have been people who have talked about voluntary term limits, but then what's happened is only the good guys and good women leave, and then the other people continue to stay. So I am in supportive of term limits. I think it will take a constitutional amendment, and I think in order to get the constitutional amendment, you have to have a 2/3 vote in the Senate. Then you have to have 3/4 of the states ratify it. I think it's popular among the people. Not so much among the congressmen and senators. So I think we have about 9 co-sponsors on the bill, but I'm still a co-sponsor and have each time supported it as it's been reintroduced.
All right. Again, you can ask a question by pressing *3 on your telephone keypad at any time. And asking a question isn't the only way you can get in touch with us. You can always call our office, visit our website, or write us a letter. And for those who are just joining us, our office is always here to help if you have any issues with federal agencies. We know that navigating the massive federal bureaucracy can be confusing, frustrating, and downright overwhelming. But you don't have to face this challenge alone. Our office has a proven track record of helping Kentuckians untangle red tape, get results, and resolve long-standing concerns. And Senator Paul was talking earlier about some of our constituent services staff in Bowling Green. Bobette, she is a Kentucky name. Everyone knows who she is and what she's done for our veterans. So we really do encourage you to call and contact us if you have any issues. Some of those issues are veterans benefits, Social Security and Medicare benefits, IRS, immigration, passports, military academy nominations, student loans, replacing lost or damaged documents. Pretty much if it's a federal agency, we can probably help you. So if you live in Kentucky and you need help, please don't hesitate to contact us by visiting our website at paul.senate.gov or by calling our Bowling Green office at 270-782-8303. So if you have a question for Senator Paul, please press *3 on your telephone keypad now or at any time. And if you press the number 1 on your keypad, you can be added to our e-newsletter. So let's go ahead and we'll go to our next question. Joe Poole. Mr. Poole, you are live with the Senator. Go ahead and ask your question.
Well, good evening, Senator Paul. This is Joe Poole, and I've got a question on the First Amendment for you.
Sure.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. How can supporters of yours swear the absolute prohibition in the First Amendment against establishing religious organizations and the fact that we continue, the U.S. Congress continues to appropriate or authorize $50 billion a year to establish the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan?
It's a good question. I hadn't really ever thought about that because you're right.
I don't think anybody has.
No, it's a good question because I've been an opponent of spending so much in Afghanistan, mainly just it costs so much, and we've got so many needs here at home. I think that $50 billion a year could be better spent at home. But I hadn't thought about it as a First Amendment question. But you're right. While we have a division of church and state, their church is their state. In fact, they're integrally intertwined. There's no separation, and really they are a religious theocracy the way much of the Middle East is, and that's a good point. So you're right. We actually are supporting a religion, religions abroad, stuff we would never do here, we're doing abroad. I think that's just another argument for why we shouldn't be sending so much money abroad, and it's also an argument that if there is any money that is ever to go abroad or anywhere, that ought to be contingent on behavior. And this is why, like, selling arms to the Saudis, it's another religious theocracy, but also a government that, murdered a journalist recently, and really has shown no regard for women, no regard for the rights of minorities, of other minority religions. And see, it's not just that they promote Islam, they promote only their brand of Islam. So if you're a Shiite Muslim and you live in Saudi Arabia, you're oppressed. I mean, just last year they killed a Shiite sheikh. They also have his nephew, who was 18 or 19 at the time, and his crime was sending a text message to friends saying, hey, there's going to be a protest rally. For that, he was sentenced to death. And I don't think he's been executed yet, but he's been on death row for 5 years. And so, yeah, throughout the world, we've sent billions and billions of your dollars to religious despots throughout the Middle East. And for so many reasons it ought to end, but not least among them that it's really not constitutional, but it's also goes against our own interest to be supporting these regimes around the world. So I've introduced a bill actually on Afghanistan to say that we should declare victory. We did win the war. We've been there 19 years. We should declare victory, bring our soldiers home, and actually I would give our soldiers a $2,500 bonus for each soldier, and there would be a cost for that. But that would be much less than 1 year that we're spending in Afghanistan now. So it'd be a one-time cost for the bonuses, but even in the first year, we'd still save over $40 billion. And then every year thereafter, we'd be able to save the full $50 billion. And you just can't find a general in the Pentagon who actually believes there's still a mission over there. And look, I was for it in the beginning. I think you can't tolerate people attacking you, and we were right to go after those who attacked us on 9/11. But 19 years later, there's nobody left alive who had anything to do with 9/11. The people, we're fighting the kids of the people, that may have been involved with 9/11, but the people are dead or captured. And really, it's nation building now. When you talk to our young soldiers, they'll do anything. They're so brave. Kentucky's got a lot of them, and they're good young men and women, so patriotic, and yet, they'll tell you they will go and kill the enemy. They will go and fight for America. But the moment you tell them they have to plant a flag and start building roads and police stations and doing all this police work, they say, well, we're soldiers. We were here to kill the enemy, but we're not really here to build a nation in Afghanistan that really has had trouble for thousands of years to become a nation and is unlikely really to in the near future, no matter how much money we give them. So I'm with you. I think a unique way to look at it with the First Amendment, but I think it's a good point.
All right, thank you for that one. We'll go ahead and go to our next question. Millie Howard Metcalf, you are live with the Senator. Go ahead and ask your question.
Good evening, Senator Paul. I'm so glad to speak with you. You spoke about health care, and some of the problems that I have noticed people talking about around where we live in Louisville, the insurance companies are the ones that get to decide what you can and cannot have concerning your health care. It used to be when your doctor said you need this or that, it was like, okay, doctor said, and let's go with what the doctor said. Now you got Joe Blow saying, oh, no, that doesn't fit our criteria. No, you can't have that, blah, blah, blah. And that is so disheartening to people like me. I'm on a fixed income. I'm going to have to draw money out of my savings that I've been working with for 30 years to pay for some medical attention that I need, because insurance said, no. I had 6 doctors write letters saying, she needs this. And they're like, nope, can't have it. Nope. So It's like, and then, also, we can't ever get, seniors cannot get any kind of help with the cost of medication with those insurance cards that they give you for different medicines and things, because it's like, no, you're on Medicare. Oh, no, you don't qualify. If you're on any kind of government subsidy, no. But if you work, no problem, we'll give you all you want. What are you all doing about that? It's so frustrating to see this happening.
That's a great question, and I sympathize with you completely. I've just been through some health problems myself. We got a bill from the hospital for $50,000, and then we got a note from the insurance company saying, denied, they didn't do this, this, and this, and the assumption is they're going to send us a $50,000 bill. Now, I've been around the system long enough to know that the insurance company will probably pay, because I had an emergency and we did all the appropriate things. What they will do is they'll sort of scare the patient, send them a bill, and then eventually all the stuff will come in from the doctors and they'll eventually pay. But the insurance companies are brazen, they are arrogant, and they have all of the power. And so here's what I've been proposing, and I've been proposing this for a while. I think we should let individuals come together, associate collectively, and bargain with the insurance company. And here's what I mean by that. If you're an accountant and have 3 employees, or you're a landscaper and you have 4 employees and you're getting insurance, or if it's you and your wife and you're a farmer, if you buy insurance for you and your wife or 4 employees, you are 4 people against $1 billion corporation. You have no leverage, and it's an unfair equation. You go to them, you can't negotiate your price. It's take it or leave it. And when they treat you like crap and they deny things and do this, you have no recourse. Now, eventually, a lot of these things get worked out, but I'm with you. People are very mad about this. So what I would do is I would let you join a group. And I'll give you an example of how it might work. Let's say you buy your insurance for just your family and you're a small group, and if one of you gets sick, the insurance company jacks your rates up. Why don't we let you join a group? Could be a bunch of different groups. Could be Costco, could be Sam's Club, could be the Chamber of Commerce, could be the Farm Bureau. Join a group, and then what you do is you have one person negotiate for all of you. And this would work not only for health insurance, it would also work for drug prices as well. This is where the real problem is. If you work for a big corporation, most people's insurance is paid for by their employer, and they do pretty well. Same with drugs. So drug prices and health insurance prices, if you work for a big corporation, most people can do okay with that. But if you work for yourself or you're a small company, less than 50 people, you have no leverage against the insurance companies. And I tell you, I have every day a lot less love for these insurance companies because I think they treat people shabbily. And I can just imagine people who can't afford it being sent these bills for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and we should do something about it. But the way to do it is to give power to the consumer, let the consumer come together and negotiate as a group. Interestingly, you would say, why don't we do that already? It's actually against the law. And so what we really need is to legalize groups like this nationwide. See, I think that, for example, Costco is, a discount retailer. You join and become a member. There are 44 million members of Costco. Let's say 25% of them decide to get their insurance through Costco. That's 10 million people. 10 million people, if they had one person negotiating for them, will get a better price than any corporation in the whole country on insurance. This would change the balance. Right now, the insurance companies have all the power. If we let you organize and join a group, then the power will be with the consumer, or it'll be a more fair sort of market transaction. There are other things we can do as well on the drug pricing and on insurance pricing. One thing is we should let you save more in a tax-free account, let you do more things in your tax-free account, and we should look at the way that the pricing system is happening with drugs. I think there are a lot of things. We've got a list of about 10 things that we're supporting on drug prices. And when we finish, I'm going to ask Kelsey if she'll post this list of 10 different bills and ideas that we're working on. And we're going to put that on our Facebook, and we'll put it up at the end of this podcast so people can look and see, oh, these are some individual ideas that they're working on. Because I promise you, I'm on your side. I have the same sort of anger towards all these big entities because I think they use government and they manipulate government to get more profit. They get to get more profit, and they're not necessarily just doing it out of capitalism or freedom. They're actually using government to restrict competition so they can make more profit, and that's not true capitalism. That's what many of us call crony capitalism, and I'm not for that, and I'll keep fighting for better prices for you in healthcare and in drug prices.
Okay, just a reminder, *3 on your telephone keypad means that you can ask a question. And the great thing is that even though we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions tonight, we still have a list of them and a log of them, and we're going to try and pick a few either later this week or next week to answer for you and have the senator answer those for you.
And why don't we also do some of those online? Why don't we actually answer them in an online fashion? What we could do is take some of the questions that are representative, put them up like 5 or 10 questions that we get a lot of, and you and I will work on the answers, and then we'll put them up in a written fashion for people too, in case I don't have time to record them. We could have some written answers, including like the answer, a lot of people are interested in drug prices. Let's put up something on that. Some people are interested in the border. We've got a bill on the border. We might put some different categories up from different questions, and then we can put forward some of the things that we're doing in each of those areas.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And that's pretty much the whole purpose of this, is we try to get to as many different topics as possible. It's kind of how we choose the questions if we're getting a high volume on a certain topic. So, we're really happy to be able to do this. And you can also press 1 on your telephone keypad at any time to sign up for the weekly e-newsletter. That's also a really great way to get information on the legislation that the senator is introducing and the things that he's working on and where we're going to be in Kentucky, because we're all over. We'll go ahead and take our next question. I thought this one looked kind of interesting, from Mr. Chris Meredith. Go ahead, Mr. Meredith. You are live with the senator. Are you there? Well, I guess not.
Yes, I'm here.
Oop.
All right, Chris, go ahead. We got you.
No, we actually lost him.
Oh,
But
no, you got cut off.
I am so sorry, Chris, but I do remember your question. He said, I've heard you're a libertarian, but then I heard you say you were conservative in your opening. Which one is it? What's the difference? Can we talk about that?
Maybe I'm a conservatarian. I don't know. No, I always think that there's sort of a happy medium between being a conservative and a libertarian. And, what exactly that means is important, the definition of terms. I basically believe that the Constitution, the document our founding fathers, is really a big part of what made America great. That, I think our work ethic, I think our religious ethic, all of that made us a great country. But the Constitution basically set up limited government. So it said that the government, the federal government, wasn't supposed to do many things. It's supposed to defend us. We're supposed to have a court system, national defense. But we really weren't supposed to be doing a lot of other things. And the other things that we want from government, we're supposed to look and do at our state and local level. And so the interesting, the Bill of Rights is just this amazing thing they gave us. But the 9th and 10th Amendment, I think, are really important. The 10th Amendment says if the power wasn't given to the Congress, it's left to the people, the states and the people respectively, either to state legislatures or actually to the people. The 9th Amendment is very important too. It says if a right wasn't listed, if we don't say, oh, you have a right to privacy in a particular amendment, it doesn't mean you don't have a right to privacy. It just simply says under the 9th Amendment, any rights not listed are not to be disparaged, meaning we didn't have time to list all of your rights, but if we didn't give the power to government, and we didn't give a power to invade your household and do all this stuff that invades your privacy, the government doesn't have that power. So I would say a libertarian or a conservative believes in limited constitutional government, that we should balance our budget every year, that we shouldn't go to war unless Congress votes on it. War should be the exception, not the rule. If we have to go to war, we go to war to win, and we come home. We don't stay forever and just keep extending welfare to the entire world. So those are some of the things. And then there's debates exactly what a conservative versus a libertarian is. But I think for the most part, a belief in small constitutional government is how I define myself.
All right, we'll go ahead to our next question. We still have time for a few more.
Okay.
This one should be interesting. I think you may have mentioned it a little bit, but I think it's a good one for us to address. Christopher Vaught Hall Burlington has a question on student loan debt. And go ahead, Christopher, you are live.
Sure. So my question revolves obviously around student loan debt, with Americans having $1.5 trillion or more student loan debt combined. You mentioned a little bit about the different options as far as for employers, but are we looking at different options as far as for individuals who might be self-employed and those who do jobs that aren't able to actually participate in those big business plans where there's a flexibility to give that money?
Yes. The bill we have on 401ks, even if you're individually employed, and let's say you're putting aside $1,000 a year, $2,000 a year, and 10 years in, you've got $10,000 or something in your 401k, but you also have $10,000 in student loans, and your 401ks, making 2% and your student loans are 5%, you're better off if you just pay off your student loans with your 401k and then start saving again. Right now, if you do that, there's a big tax penalty. So what we would do is get rid of the tax penalty, and you'd make a decision. How much are you making on your savings and how much are you paying on interest to your loans? we also have to do something to have more competition. A lot of people have 5 to 7% loans when the government's borrowing money for 2%. So I don't know how we got such high interest on this, but I do know that the government took over the student loan business and didn't necessarily make it better. And then here's the bigger picture, and this is what we never really talk about, is that how do we get the price down for college? See, I get lobbied all the time. Student groups come up here, student governments from all the universities come up here, and you know what they ask for? We want more money, grants, or loans. And it's like, well, our people coming out of college have too many loan debts, but if we give you more loans, does that bring the price of college down? No, if we give you more loans and grants, that's stimulating the demand, and the supply of schools is staying the same. So if you increase the demand for something like education, but the supply stays the same, what happens? The price goes up. So part of the answer is we need to increase the supply of education. How do you do that? More colleges. We need to be allowing more online colleges. And we need to promote the idea that if you go to a university in Kentucky or anywhere else, that the online course should be less expensive. If you have 1,000 students at the university and then you have 10,000 online, each person you add online, the cost approaches zero. And yet we're charging right now for online courses the same as we're charging for brick and mortar. So I think ultimately online courses should come dramatically down, and really education, because you can transmit knowledge through the internet. Really, education should get to the point where the best teachers are teaching millions of kids at a time, and actually the price per pupil goes way down. Right now, we have to have the different educators, whereas what I would do is I would find the person who's the best explainer of physics, the best explainer of calculus, and I wouldn't have them teach 15 people. What a waste. I'd find the very best, somebody who can make a complicated subject easy to comprehend, and I'd have them teach 15 million people. That doesn't mean there wouldn't be teachers in each class. You'd still have teachers, but the lectures and the people who explain these complicated subjects might be sort of like the NFL or something, or the NBA. You'd have the most extraordinary teachers would be teaching thousands, if not millions of kids, and then you'd have the rest of the teachers would be helping with that and helping to reinforce the lesson. But there's a lot of reasons why through technology, if we allowed the marketplace to work, that the cost of education should go down dramatically. But I think main reason for it not going down dramatically is it's very much controlled by the government, and most of the market forces are obscured by the government. But we do have some specific things, and the number one thing we're trying to do now is let you take your savings, retirement savings, use it to pay off student loans, and not have a tax penalty. Right now with the tax penalty, it's not very wise for most people to take their any retirement funds to pay off student loans. Without the tax penalty, for a lot of people, it actually might be a good idea.
All right. We have a question here on infrastructure. This is from Sergeant Anthony Frank. Go ahead, Sergeant. You are live with the Senator. You can ask your question.
Good evening, Senator Paul. Thank you for taking my question.
Sure.
I'm a career retired military, and I currently am working as a firefighter paramedic. My question is regarding federal infrastructure and how the Senate and the federal government is working to fix our infrastructure problems. I take patients on a regular basis all over the place, primarily on I-75, and it is like traveling a minefield. And if I have to take a patient over the Brent Spence Bridge, just to throw an example out there,
Right.
You look at that thing, it looks like it's going to fall down.
It's older than I am, so I think it needs repaired or replaced, and we've been talking about that since before I even ran for office. And I agree with you. If you talk to people, and I go around the state and I talk to government leaders, local government leaders, and go to the economic development councils around the state, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, most of them say we need more infrastructure. We need to figure out how to repair our nation's bridges and roads. So I agree completely. The problem is there hasn't been a revenue source for this. And gas tax receipts have gotten smaller as cars have gotten more efficient. So when a car got 10 miles to the gallon, you had to buy more gas. Now that it gets 30 miles to the gallon, people buy less gas and there's less gas tax. The electric cars aren't paying a gas tax at all. So there are reasons to think we have a shortage of money. This month I'm introducing a bill that I think will help with this. Now, it's not like so many bills, it's hopefully to make the situation less bad, but it may not fix the entire situation. My bill is called the Penny Plan for Infrastructure. And what we do is we take all of the government spending that we vote on. It's called the discretionary budget, and it's about $1.2 trillion. And I've seen these government programs, and I report on the waste every day. There's waste from top to bottom. There's probably 5 to 10% waste in every government program up here. I promise you, you could probably cut these programs 5 to 10% and you'd not even know it, because they'd have to work harder to be more efficient. But I'm not even asking for that. I'm asking them to cut 1 penny out of every dollar, and then what I would do with that 1 penny out of every dollar is I'd put it in an infrastructure fund. So 1 penny out of $1.2 trillion would be $12 billion. And that's enough to fix the Brent Spence and 3 or 4 more other bridge projects like that. Won't fix all the bridge projects, but it fixes some of them. And it's a start, and it's $12 billion we don't have now. And it's an idea how to do something, and nobody else seems to have an idea. Now, you occasionally hear either the administration or Republican or Democrat leaders saying, we're going to do $1 trillion infrastructure program. Well, yeah, but how are you going to pay for it? So mine's not as ambitious. It's a much smaller number, but I know exactly how I'd pay for it. I would make all these other agencies that are bloated with waste and with corruption and with malfeasance and you name it, and I make them cut 1 penny out of every dollar. And I've yet to meet a business person in Kentucky that doesn't think if they were on tough times with their business that they couldn't cut 1 penny out of every dollar. In fact, businessmen and women will tell me if times are tough, they'll cut 10% of their expenditures or 20% if they have to. The federal government never does that. We never force them to do anything, so the waste just builds up. But 1 penny out of every dollar, I call it the Penny Plan for Infrastructure. We'd take that money, we'd put it in a special fund just for infrastructure, and we'd start fixing some of our roads and bridges. Maybe one more, Kelsey?
One more? Okay, so we actually had one come in on Twitter. So you guys know we do monitor our social media during this. We are, listening and taking note of everything on all of our platforms. And I thought this was a really interesting question. She tweeted at us, did you know that the military has use or lose money that they have to quickly burn? Wouldn't it be wise to allow the military to have rollover money so they don't needlessly and purposely burn cash? What do you think about a rollover plan?
Yeah, in fact, we've studied this. We have a committee that has actually studied this. The phenomenon is called use it or lose it, and it's not just in the military, it's in every division up here. In fact, we've seen people or agencies. You remember the picture from a few years ago of that man and his wife sipping champagne in the hot tub in Las Vegas? There are people, government agencies, taking conferences in Las Vegas in the last month of the fiscal year because they've got that money and they're trying to spend it. So September is the last month. We're in the last month of the fiscal year. We've looked at spending on day 1 of September through day 30th, and we found out for the month of September, government spends money 5 times faster in the last month of the year. So they spend it all year long, and then they're like, oh my goodness, if we don't spend it, we won't get it next year. They spend it 5 times faster, every department of government. It's even worse than that. Not only is it 5 times faster in the last month, if you measure on September 1st, they spend faster on September 2nd, faster on September 3rd. It culminates at the very end of the month where the money's flying out, and as the sun is setting in the west and government's still open in California, they're still shoveling money out. Why? Because they think if they don't spend it all, they won't get it next year. I have a bill that would actually help to fix this. Rolling it over is not a bad idea, but we also have a bill that would give bonuses to government employees who find savings. Can you imagine if you were given an incentive not to spend all your money so you got more, but you personally could get a bonus? And I'd give significant bonuses. I'd give thousands of dollars, $5,000, $10,000 maybe, to an employee who says, you know what, I think I can do my job this year and not expend more money. You know, our ambassador to Germany is that way. We met him this summer, and I've met him a couple times here, Rick Grinnell. He asked for no more money and no more employees, and they're like, oh, that's crazy. Don't talk that way. We always ask for more money, and we always ask for more employees, and it's like, oh no, he's causing ripples at the State Department because he didn't ask for more money or more employees. We need more people like that. And I think to sort of make it part of government, what we ought to do is pass my bill. It's called Bonuses for Cost Cutters. We've had it a couple years out there, but interestingly, I didn't think it would be partisan. I thought I could get people on both sides of the aisle because it's, to me, just a good government bill. The other side of the aisle would never support it. They wanted me to change the bill that said, all right, we'll give the bonuses, but the money has to go, instead of back to pay for the debt, the money has to go and be spent somewhere else. And so really that was sort of a sticking point. We wanted to actually cut the deficit by getting rid of waste. They just wanted to reprogram it and spend it somewhere else. So that's the only thing about the rollover that might or might not be good. I think really even in the military, and look, I think we should have a strong national defense, but I think even in the military there is waste. You remember the $500 hammers and $200 wrenches and toilet seats. We got to figure out waste everywhere, and that means no part of government should be exempt from it. But we'll put something up on that on our website also, the Bonuses for Cost Cutters. If anybody likes the idea, if you'll tell your other congressmen, tell your other senators that you like this idea. We need pressure from the public to get some of these good government kind of ideas to pass. Thanks, everybody, for being with us this evening. We'll do this again probably in about a month or so.
Thanks again. As the senator said, we are truly, truly grateful to have you tuning in tonight, and we really appreciate the opportunity to engage in these discussions on the issues that are important to both Kentucky and the rest of the nation. And we love being able to make the senator available to answer your questions. If you'd like to be reminded the next time we're having another telephone town hall event, you can go to our website at paul.senate.gov/live, and you can sign up there. And as I mentioned earlier, our office is always here to help, especially if you have issues with federal agencies. If you need assistance with issues like Social Security benefits, lost or damaged federal documents, military medals or records, or passports, please contact our Bowling Green office at 270-782-8303 or visit our website. Thanks so much, and we look forward to doing this again soon.